Dallas throws the ball a ton, 66% of the time. So here's what's interesting. The teams that run the most are the Rams, Browns, Patriots, Ravens, Titans. And this is where the problem is. They both have an identity. All winning teams. Here's the teams with the highest pass percentage. They're all losing teams. The Giants, the Bengals, the Texans, the Cowboys, and the Broncos. You feel like, actually, you think to yourself, well, Cleveland has to run because they have two good backs and an average quarterback. Dallas doesn't have to pass because Zeke is great and Dak's pretty good. They just have amazing weapons. So when you say it out loud, you think to yourself, well, I'd rather be Dallas. Dallas could run and win games, but they elect to pass because their receiving core is the best in football. And then you hear Cleveland, you're like, they could not pass the ball 45 times and win. We saw that last year. Baker Mayfield's not good enough. They make too many bad throws, too many turnovers. You think to yourself, wow, Cleveland is limited. And I think actually they are limited. They're not Pittsburgh. They're not Kansas City. They're not Baltimore. They're not the Packers. They're not the Seahawks. I do think Cleveland is more limited. But the choice they make to run the ball clearly wins games in the NFL instead of just throwing it a ton. And this is the problem. Dallas and Mike McCarthy have gotten into a really, really bad habit. In 2016, the Cowboys were 13-3. They led the NFL in running. In 2017, they were very good. They were third in running. In 2018, they ranked 10th. Last year, 12th. Now 29th. You've got a bad reboot needed in Dallas. The more they ask Dak to carry them, the less they win. They can run the ball. Mike McCarthy, this was the knock on him in Green Bay. He never developed a running game. What has Matt LaFleur done in a little over a year in Green Bay? Developed Aaron Jones and a great running game. It sounds like Dallas has a much better, higher ceiling. Cleveland runs because they have to. They're limited at quarterback. Dallas passes because they want to. They're not limited at quarterback mostly or running back. So what is it? It's the identity. I believe Dallas needs a reboot of their identity. The last 5 years, they run it less and less and less and less. And then you combine that with Mike McCarthy's history in Green Bay, where he ran it less and less and less and less. And put it up again. The teams that run in this league control the clock, control the score, control the tempo. All 5 teams, Rams, Browns, Patriots, Ravens, Titans. Those right now would be playoff teams. I know it's early. All 5 passing teams make more mistakes, balls in the air, you don't eat the clock, you don't control the tempo. It's all the bad teams in the league. It's the Giants, and it's the Bengals, and it's the talented Cowboys. So they both have an identity. Cleveland's got an identity, and I think there's a ceiling on it, but they have found theirs very early. Dallas has an identity too. I just think it's the wrong one. But I think their ceiling is much higher. So I think it's time for a reboot. Something else to watch this weekend. And it may not happen this weekend, but keep your eye on it. Mahomes is obviously great. Russell Wilson's great. Aaron Rodgers is great. But remember during COVID, who got a workout during COVID? Quarterbacks, receivers, tight ends. We saw Tom Brady in Tampa at a high school with his tight ends and his running backs and his wide receiver. We saw Derek Carr in Las Vegas with his wide receivers in the desert. You know who doesn't work out in the desert? Middle linebackers, pass rushers. You don't hear middle linebackers calling up each other, hey, you want to meet at the high school and practice our drops into coverage? You don't hear pass rushers, hey, we don't have any offensive linemen around. You want to practice your pass rush over at the Jesuit High School? No. What you're seeing more than ever is what COVID did to the NBA. It creates a bubble, which helps young players. COVID's really helped the offenses because the offensive guys with no preseason, they can go out to a high school, a college, and throw the ball around. The offense is the highest scoring league ever. It's hard to... Lamar Jackson, when trailing, and everybody knows he's going to throw, is not the gap's getting bigger between him and Mahomes. Is that fair? Is there? I do think, and I said this too. I said that Mahomes is on an escalator going up, and Lamar's on a people mover at an airport going faster, but you can't get to the top floor in a people mover. Like, am I wrong?
That's a great one. No, and I really hope you asked me about the Chiefs rant you went on earlier. But on the Ravens, I want to give you credit because I think it was you who first said. Was it you that made the Lamar-Giannis comparison? I think you said that a few weeks ago,
Probably,
right?
I'm usually brilliant. Yeah, sure, go ahead and give me credit for it. I'll take it, you bet. No.
Okay, all right, well, listen, if it wasn't you, it was me. I can't remember. I thought I stole it from you. Maybe you stole it from me. Who knows? It's a perfect comparison, which is I don't think, LeBron included, there is a player you would rather have in the NBA over the course of the entire regular season, and there isn't a player who you'd rather have with a 10-point lead than Giannis Antetokounmpo with everything working going downhill. But I think there might be 6, 7, 8 guys you'd rather have if your team was trailing 10 going into the second half of a playoff game. That's where I'm at with Lamar right now. On any given week, he's probably the most dangerous player in the league, and he is without a question, even over Mahomes, the guy you would want if the team is up 10 at halftime. But when you're 0-5 in games your teams trail by double digits, when you're 21-1 in your career in the regular season, and except for against the Chiefs, and 0-5 in your career against the Chiefs or the playoffs, which are your biggest games essentially up to this point, it's concerning. It doesn't mean you write him off. It doesn't mean he won't get better. It just means, like Giannis, he is a guy right now that while is the #1 draft pick in certain scenarios, I think Mahomes, Russell, you could say Deshaun, there might be a long list of quarterbacks where it's like, man, we're down 10 midway through the third quarter. Can you come back? He hasn't shown us that yet. And that's not hating on Lamar.
Yeah.
That's just recognizing right now he has a hole in his game, like Giannis's lack of a jump shot.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that was your idea first, not mine. Very good. So money is now pouring in on the Patriots, pouring in on New England. I'm going to stay away. I'm not betting against Kansas City until they lose. Okay, so I'm staying away from it. But I will say this: Peter King yesterday said MJ is Mahomes, and they are like, they look like just different than everybody else that plays their sport. But I do think that you have to at least acknowledge, and it's okay to admit I'm not a trust fund kid. Maybe I wish I was. That between Andy Reid and the Hunt family and the weapons and the O-line and the dysfunctional division, it's been a little easier for Mahomes than most quarterbacks entering the league. No?
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. One is, just so America knows, when Colin Cowherd says money is pouring in on the Patriots and the line is moved, that probably just means Colin made a medium-sized wager by his standards and moved it. So just so everybody knows, that's what he means. That's first of all. Second of all, on the Jordan part, I really love how you've painted Michael Jordan's story of rags to riches because he had to overcome, the coaching from Dean Smith, then Phil Jackson, and getting Scottie Pippen by year 4. I mean, the mountains Michael Jordan had to climb. It's just unbelievable. I just love it. I love that. How could he do it in college? He's got the greatest coach ever and James Worthy to his right. Can you imagine they even made the tournament? Now on Mahomes. Obviously, Mahomes being drafted by Andy Reid with a team that has Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce has set him up for massive success. No one would deny that. But your idea that he went to this pristine franchise, I will not let you write that history.
Okay.
I went to those playoff games. Before Patrick Mahomes took over, the Chiefs were 1-10 in their last 11 playoff games, and the one was a win over a Bill O'Brien coach team, so I don't think it counts. They hadn't been to a conference championship game in a quarter century, hadn't been to a Super Bowl in a half century. So this idea that's like, oh, well, the trophy's named after the dear departed Lamar Hunt, so this is one of the just pristine franchises in the league, it's nonsense. And Mahomes has solved quite a bit for them. And while the offense has been very good, they had those weapons with Alex Smith, and they lost to Marcus Mariota in the playoffs. And the defense up until this year was mediocre at best. So Patrick Mahomes does get quite a lot of that credit, even though I understand he has certainly had it easier than, say, Deshaun Watson, who's dealing with the mess down in Houston.
All right, that was very, Nick is from Kansas City, so he's got that labyrinth of stats. He can just, look at that. I mean, you were so good, and now look at you.
I got a new hat, too. Hold on, let me get it right.
Oh, that's even worse. You put it on.
Is that better? No.
You're not even hireable now. I mean, not even